Hi, welcome to Mondays with Melissa. Today I want to talk about the 5 reasons why you shouldn't gift assets to your children. People come in all the time and think the simplest way to do their estate planning is just to transfer everything over to their children. And while they may have great children, there are things that happen that we have no control of. So the reasons why we don't recommend transferring assets to your children are, first, there's a loss of control. Once those assets are given to your children, you don't have any control over those assets anymore. Now, some people may say, well, if we put the assets in a trust that's irrevocable, we also don't have control. But that's not really the case. You still retain some control over that trust because you can change your trustees or your beneficiaries at any time. The second reason not to give assets to your children is those assets may not be there for you when you need them. So that could go many different ways. That could be somebody accessing the money improperly, which of course none of us ever want to think our children would do, and then also potentially losing the assets. And that brings me to the third reason. Things happen no matter how wonderful a person is. They could be sued for some reason, especially if they own their own business. You have to be careful of personal assets. They could get divorced, and then those assets that you ask them to hold for you could be subject to the divorce proceeding. They could have kids in college on financial aid, and your assets could really affect that child's ability to get financial aid. And also, there could be an accident, an injury. There could be creditors and any sort of judgment in that regard. And your money, again, would be vulnerable. The fourth reason not to transfer assets to children, and of course the one that we really don't want to think about, is what if you outlive your child? So if something happens to your child, if they predecease you, their assets that are in their name are going to go through their estate. And if they have a will, their estate may all be going to a spouse, or maybe they don't have a spouse, they have children, then it's going to go to your grandchildren, or maybe they don't have either a spouse or children, and they've left all of their assets to a charity, for example. Then your assets are going to be included as part of that estate, and you could have a really hard time getting those assets back, of course, depending on who they've gone to. And finally, the fifth reason why we don't like transferring assets to children is when those assets are in your children's names, they're taxed as belonging to your child. So even though there's no gift tax involved, most likely, and it's not income to your child because you are making a gift, once your child is sitting with that money is going to earn interest, and perhaps there's going to be capital gains and things like that, and that's all going to be taxed at your child's tax rate as opposed to yours, which likely will be lower. So there are some really negative impacts on both ends, both for the parent transferring the money and the child receiving the money, and it's just not the best way to plan. And that's why we really like to talk about irrevocable trusts as a planning tool. So feel free to give us a call. We offer free consultations, and we'd be happy to talk to you more about it as to your specific situation. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.